to Barbies.
Inhuman? So what you're doing must be human.
Welcome to Hamburgers and Horror, the home of meat, monsters, and marriage. I'm Noah Hook, and today we are looking at Possession. This 1981 psychological horror film follows the deteriorating relationship between an international spy and his wife. He returns home from a mission to learn she's having an affair and plans on leaving him and their young son, and he hires a private investigator to track down her new lover. I don't want to spoil the surprise, but let's just say what he finds is fucking crazy. Seriously though, if you haven't seen this film before, I want you to go away right now, go watch that film, and come back later. This deserves at least a one-time unspoiled watch. This is your one and only warning before spoilers start flying at ya. Alright, if you're still here, I assume you know about the horny tentacle monster. Let's talk about it. Possession was written and directed by Andrzej Żuławski. He was a Polish director who largely avoided mainstream commercialism in his films, preferring harshly political, highly disturbing, abstract art house projects. His films are usually super horny, super horrifying, or some combination of both. A few of his unique creations include The Third Part of the Night, The Devil, On the Silver Globe, The Public Woman, and Salamanca. This will become clear once we start diving into the plot, but Żuławski often used filmmaking as a tool to cope with whatever was going on in his own personal life. In the case of Possession, the screenplay was written during a painful divorce between him and actress Małgorzata Bronek. A few scenes in the film are supposedly directly based on real things that happened between him and his ex-wife. There's also a big presence of paranoia and the fear of being watched, especially related to the government. Żuławski's transgressive films had made him notorious in what was communist Poland at the time, and he was actually forced to leave the country in 1978 while filming On the Silver Globe. He eventually finished making On the Silver Globe, but the de facto ban plus the divorce really changed the directions he was going in and created this unlikely nightmare. During this time, Żuławski fled to France, where he was able to get the film co-produced with West Germany, where the film was also shot. So yeah, Possession was actually shot in the heart of the Cold War, with a ton of shots of the actual Berlin Wall. If nothing else, it's a cool-ass piece of history. Possession is anchored by two incredible performances by the main leads. The film stars Isabelle Adjani from Nosferatu the Vampire and The Tenant as Anna, and a little baby Sam Neill, fresh off his work on The Omen 3, from films like Jurassic Park and Event Horizon, as Mark. The film also features Margie Karstensen from World on a Wire as Margie, and Heinz Bennett from The Tin Drum as Heinrich. Both Adjani and Neill were put through the absolute ringer for this film, and it took both of them years to recover. This is one of the few films that I would say outdoes The Shining when it comes to intense performances. Cinematography was handled by Bruno Newton of films like India Song and Going Places, and the score was composed by Andrzej Korzynski, who worked on basically all of Żuławski's films. Possession also features some incredible practical effects by the legendary Carlo Rambaldi, whose work can be appreciated in Deep Red, Bay of Blood, King Kong, and even E.T. Possession premiered at the Cannes Film Festival and even won some awards before hitting theaters in France, but it was quickly banned and added to the dreaded video nasties. It did manage to see theaters in America, but only after a third of its runtime was cut out. How do you even make a movie out of that? Somehow it managed to catch up with its modest $2.4 million budget, but it was far from a box office success. It received mixed reviews from critics, at least partially due to all of the various versions of it that were really chopped up. Through the years, it has gained nothing but appreciation though, sometimes cited as one of the greatest horror films of all time. Possession currently has an 84 and 78% on Rotten Tomatoes, along with a 4.1 on Letterboxd, so it's clear that it does possess something pretty special. I love this film a lot, and I probably love it more than the average horror film, at least if I'm going by my friends' Letterboxd ratings of it. I can definitely understand that Possession is an acquired taste. It is not a movie for the squeamish or weak-hearted, or anybody that just likes a really coherent plot. But I always love to find films that are pure, unaltered visions by depraved and sometimes genius directors, and Possession definitely qualifies. Thank you so much to my patron Liam for requesting Possession for me to review. I think this will be a very fun discussion. But with all that said, it's probably time we get started. Go grab your spouses for this one, folks, because we're watching Possession. The movie opens on the Berlin Wall, baby. Look at that thing. Mark and his beautiful, piercing blue eyes have just returned home from a secret mission. As I mentioned, he is an international spy, but it isn't exactly a warm welcome. We learn his wife Anna had expressed unhappiness in their marriage before he left.
You can't just say you don't know. That's what you said on the phone. When will you know?
I don't know.
But for now, the two were going to play nice since their son Bob has been eagerly awaiting his father's return. That night, after a failed attempt at rekindling their romance, they both claim that neither has been unfaithful. Mark comes to the conclusion that they have simply grown apart, and they are relatively content with the idea of that. He meets with that secret group of powerful white dudes from the X-Files who are disappointed that he doesn't want to take on any more work for the time being.
I'm unable to do that.
Would you be unable for a long time?
I hope not.
Mark returns home, man follows woman, east watches west, and Mark wakes up on the floor to a phone call from Anna. She wants the D, and by that I mean divorce. He feverishly searches her things for any sign of infidelity, eventually coming across some love letters from a man named Heinrich. He calls up her friend Margie and confirms that Anna has been seeing him for a while. Mark simply wants her to come home so they can figure out the divorce cordially like adults, saying he doesn't have the drive to fight for her that she was hoping that he would. Anna calls back and admits to the truth, agreeing to meet in person to discuss their living arrangements. They meet incognito at a cafe, where Mark agrees to let her keep the apartment and provide her with a monthly payment to cover the bills. But he's also decided that he doesn't want to be in Bob's life, worried that being an every other weekend daddy will do more harm than good.
I think what you want to do to Bob is...
Inhuman? So what you're doing must be human.
He begins shaming her lack of loyalty and wants to know more about her boy toy, and she admits she was in his bed the first night she met him. Mark breaks some glasses in anger, and Anna tells him she would have never had Bob if she knew it would end like this.
No one is good or bad, but if you want, I'm the bad one.
This sends Mark on a full-blown rampage through the cafe, and he's ultimately tackled by an army of patisserie chefs. He goes through a bit of a rough patch for the next few weeks in a hotel. He eventually gets his shit together and visits the apartment, only to find that it's in an equal state of disrepair and Bob has been left alone in filth. Oh, and the little dude unknowingly shares that Heinrich has been a part of Bob's life well before Mark returned. Nice boat though. Anna returns home and tries to explain the situation, but Mark says he's realized he can't live without her or Bob. I understand not wanting to live without Bob, but which part of watching her abandon your son in a pigsty made you realize you have to be with her? He understands that she may not want to rejoin him, but he does intend on taking Bob.
You can continue to visit whenever you want, but I'm taking over here.
He demands that she put her family first and end her relationship, which she seems to agree to, but she flips shit when Mark tells her to do it over the phone instead of in person.
It'll be the way you want. You just don't cry, Bob.
Anna has a bit of a mentee bee and Mark puts her to bed. But But then he wakes to a phone call from Heinrich, who says Anna is with him and she intends to keep it that way.
Anna is with me, and she'll stay with me.
Womp womp. He gets Heinrich's number from Margie, but his mother answers and explains that Heinrich is away and she hasn't seen Anna for weeks. Meanwhile, Mark drops Bob off at school and meets his teacher Helen, who bears an uncanny resemblance to his wife.
I'm glad. You're the father who went far away and met the polar bear.
Next, he visits Heinrich, who allows him inside to chat.
You can hate me as much as you like, but it's you who wants to know things for me. So please make it possible.
He's sorry about the situation, but intends to continue pursuing Anna for as long as she likes, but he does insist that he just returned from Hamburg and did not speak on the phone with him last night. Heinrich says that he and Anna reached perfect sexual harmony, and when Mark tries to grab him, he gets his ass whooped by the flexible fellow. The lovebirds have another screaming match in which Mark tells her to truly think about Bob's well-being and need for a family, but Anna says that he disgusts her. She claims to whore around the entire city when he's not looking and says she'd rather jump off a building than stay with him.
I fuck around with everybody on every corner!
She slaps him and Mark returns the favor tenfold. He chases her out onto the street, but Anna suddenly goes into a trance and quietly walks off. Margie agrees to help watch Bob for a while, and Mark hires a private investigator named Emmanuel to follow Anna for a few days. Mark and Margie have an unlikely embrace, he and the communists eye each other, and he picks another fight with Anna.
Disgusting!
Yes.
He wants to know what's really going on, well aware he only knows half of the truth. Anna responds by slashing her neck with an electric carver. He sort of talks her down by reminding her of Bob and treats her wound, and he proceeds to give himself a trio of cuts as well. Anna abruptly has to leave, saying she doesn't have time to wait for Bob. Don't worry, Mark, Emmanuel is on the case. I have to say, bro is not very sly. By the end, he's straight up chasing this woman through the streets and following her all the way up to an apartment she has the keys to. Emmanuel macks on some weenies before banging on her door, pretending to work for the building manager. You sure fooled her, Emmanuel. He claims that he has to check all of the windows for any cracks, which will allow him to search every room in the apartment. He checks out the empty, decaying apartment, but when he wants to look at the bathroom, she gets especially frantic and tries to distract him with a glass of wine.
Yes, why?
I'm afraid you...
Oh, come on.
Emmanuel enters anyway and comes across this grotesque creature, and Anna shanks him with the broken wine bottle. Good work, detective. Mark gets a visit from Helen, who he immediately puts to work giving Bob a sponge bath. He's also visited by a drunken Heinrich, who is also wondering where the fuck Anna is. Mark shares that she's living with some mystery man in another apartment, as it seems their sexual connection wasn't so supreme after all.
I used to be afraid of you, but I don't think I am anymore.
There's nothing to fear except God.
For me, God is a disease.
Helen has really shifted into the mommy role, I guess, and Bob asks if he likes her. Mark says he isn't sure, but promises Bob that he thinks mommy is prettier. Helen shares that during nap time, Bob shouts in his sleep, often waking up terrified. Mark changes subjects immediately, saying he's at war against women because they are so unstable. Sir, you have this nice lady doing your dishes and this is how you decide to riz her up? Helen doesn't buy his ubiquitous claims about women being the sole problem to everything. She thinks he has a distinct fear of freedom. And then she decides to stay the night. Alrighty then. Their naked time is interrupted by a screaming Bob, which seems to dampen their relationship for the time being. Emmanuel's boss is concerned that his investigator hasn't returned, and Mark gives him the mystery man's address so he can check it out. Aw, Zimmerman and Emmanuel are in love. Sorry, Zimmy, I got bad news for you though. He makes his way into Slime City and asks about Emmanuel, but he immediately picks up bad vibes from Anna. She shows him the giant vagina-faced, penis-headed squid monster as it lounges around in bed, which seems to be his favorite location.
He made love to me all night.
The detective looks over what Anna refers to as unfinished, which seems to be Emmanuel's corpse, and he desperately fires a gun at her. Anna goes into a rage and attacks him, beating the poor guy with a carton of milk before popping him 3 times in the chest. Meanwhile, Heinrich has sent Mark a tape he recorded of the ballet class that Anna taught before she started fucking invertebrates. She tortures some poor girl by forcing her into a painful position for far too long, claiming that this will teach her how much fight she truly has. Thanks, Heinrich, that was really thoughtful. Alright y'all, this is a round where the film gets a bit more free flow and hard to describe, so bear with me. Anna describes 2 sisters that represent faith and chance, both of which exist inside of her.
It's like those 2 sisters of faith and chance. My faith can't exclude chance, but my chance can explain faith.
And she describes private life as many small performances and masks. It may be impossible, but she believes there is some kind of third option that pierces through the performances, the faith, and the chance. She explains to Heinrich that she does love him, but it's her husband's return that keeps her going, at least at the time it was filmed. She is afraid of herself and says she creates her own evil. Anna returns home and starts jamming clothes into the fridge and throwing food on the floor, apparently believing she is helping with housework. He takes her continued returns as a sign that she's not so sure of her new love. What an optimist. Anna's got something going on with her hands, and she seems to earnestly break down and admit the shame, guilt, loneliness, and regret that she's been feeling. She's completely exhausted, feeling nothing for no one. Yo, J-Man, you got any words of advice? No? Okay, well, thanks anyway. Anna goes absolutely hysterical in the subway, and her maniacal laughs shift into rabid screams. She lets out a bunch of guttural moans for a long ass time. It is so fucking strange and intense. Oh no, now she's spewing out blood, and what is that, alien nut? So all of this was actually a flashback, and it was her account of a miscarriage that she suffered while Mark was away, which may have been the catalyst for everything happening now. But what was born out of that miscarriage, which she refers to as faith, must be protected, which is apparently what she is doing now. Mark feels he's finally seen a glimpse of the real Anna, and he finds it vulgar. He gives Heinrich the address to Anna's hideaway, and the sexy king speeds his way over in a jiffy. Bro is too busy trying to seduce her to realize she's a twitchy mess, but he does eventually come across the creature and its beady little eyes. This sight terrifies Heinrich, and things are only getting worse as he finds severed body parts in the fridge. Anna tells the very proud man that he's no better or different than any other person, he's just a body in a huge hive like an insect. She stabs him in the chest, but not fatally, and she allows him to flee so she can make love to her monster. Heinrich calls up Mark to warn him, but he's mostly excited to hear that Anna stabbed him. I suppose he thinks it means there's something good in store for their relationship. He leaves Bob with Margie, who immediately passes out, and he investigates the apartment for himself. He does find the body parts, but the creature is nowhere to be found. He goes from hysterical to happy, allowing the apartment to fill up with gas. He swings by the bar Heinrich called him at, and Mark straight up gaslights him about what he saw and how he got those injuries.
It doesn't mean anything to you. There are dead bodies there. I don't believe you.
Heinrich intends to stop Anna's murderous ways and kill the monster, but Mark proceeds to conk him in the head with a toilet lid and drown him in the toilet bowl. He even throws up in it to make the scene look like a drug-fueled accident. He blows up Anna's apartment and heads home on Heinrich's bike, only to find Margie has been stabbed to shit as well.
Do you believe in God?
Anna helps him clean up the blood, and she tells him to take her. Very nice. They have a very uncomfortable sex scene, and Anna admits to killing Margie because she saw the creature and wanted to take it away from her. She needs money to find a new hiding place for her monstrous faith, and Mark agrees to get her the funds on Monday. He also loads Margie's body into a big plastic bag and puts her in his trunk. He also gets a call from Heinrich's mom, who found her son's body at the bar. She says his soul is missing, and Mark promises to ask Anna where it might be. He drops Bob off with Helen, and she makes him keep a mysterious promise off screen. Spoiler alert, we never learn what that promise is. Mark makes his way to Anna's new hideout, but when he arrives, he hears the sound of her making love with her ooey gooey friend. The thing is looking more human than ever as well. Look at that little head of hair. He then visits Heinrich's mom, but unfortunately he couldn't find her son's soul. Something tells me Mark didn't look very hard. She shows him a picture of Heinrich's wife and child, and then she pops some bye-bye pills and lays in bed to die. Some upbeat techno music sneaks in as Mark is harassed by his employers to return to his previous mission. They look over a dead dog together, and the employer advises him to forget about all the dead dogs in his life and come back to work. He returns to Zimmerman's home, which is actually where Anna is hiding, but it is littered with cops, so he forces a taxi to ram a police car as a distraction. The cops do shoot Mark, but he returns the favor as well. Somebody or something screeches out of there in Mark's car, and Mark flees on Heinrich's motorcycle. He quickly gets into an accident that fucks him up even further. Mark struggles his way up the spiral staircase of a building I don't think we've seen before, and he's shocked to see that Anna has found him. And she brought her Faith, who is rocking an exciting new look.
I wanted to show it to you. It is finished now.
Husband 2.0 is complete. Mark attempts to shoot his doppelganger, but both he and Anna are suddenly shot down by the police. Now they're both as good as dead, and the two share one last sloppy kiss. She takes his gun and blasts herself in the lower spine, which is a bizarre way to go about ending things, but it works. The creature hypnotizes some woman into helping him escape, and the real Mark hurls himself off the stairs to his death. Helen gets a ring at the door, and Bob begs her not to open it.
Don't open! Don't open! Don't open!
The little lad is so scared he flees to the bathroom and drowns himself in the bathtub. Well, fuck. The sounds of sirens, planes, and explosions fill the air outside. And the movie ends with Helen's green eyes staring us down as Mark II tries to get inside. And that's Possession. Oh boy, I'd say that's one of the more fucked up things we've covered in a while. But fucked upness aside, I love this film. It has such a unique vision, style, and subject matter that it is tackling, along with some incredible visuals and effects to back up the concepts. Both Isabelle Adjani and Sam Neill give career-defining performances here. I've seen people complain that everything feels a little over dramatic and overacted, but I personally really like the melodramatic, almost theatrical way that the characters behave. Everyone is moving around and touching and interacting in such active ways that make it feel like a stage play. I love how we get to see Mark and Anna's relationship as well as the concept of marriage get dissected. Even just the title of the film provides a few different ways that we can begin to analyze the chaos happening on screen. In fact, possession can be interpreted two totally different ways through the lens of Mark or Anna. Mark is a controlling, gaslighting, even abusive partner who is constantly away, and he assumes that his role as husband and breadwinner give him final say in what Anna's life should look like. He is an international spy that is naturally paranoid and looking for problems. Even once Anna declares that she wants a divorce, he wants it done a certain way to maintain the facade of their happy marriage. He wants to possess the traditional, non-confrontational, obedient nuclear family, which more or less would make Anna and Bob his possessions. And if Anna is a possession, you could also say she's possessed. You could argue that Anna is actually breaking free, but I see her pull away from Mark as simply another force taking her over. This creature clearly has some kind of psychological hold over Anna, and it seems to compel her to seek out sexual pleasure, hurt her husband, and eventually kill. I view this creature as the physical embodiment of Anna's own discontentment. Her lover doesn't pleasure her, and she's all alone taking care of Bob. She begins to yearn for something new, just like a group of oppressed people within a government begin to yearn for revolution. Oppression breeds revolution, and revolutions often end in violence. This creature is everything that Mark and governing bodies fear, an entity with no name, no face, and no rules that it has to play by. It corrupts Anna from within before taking a form of its own, eventually taking the form of the entity it has replaced. This brings to mind the hundreds if not thousands of revolutions, coups, assassinations, and regime changes that have happened over the hundreds of thousands of years that we as humans have existed. Groups constantly kill each other for power, but once in power, they continuously mimic the violent, oppressive forces they fought so hard to eliminate. And similarly, when it comes to new relationships, we gravitate towards the familiar, whether it is harmful to us or not. When you zoom out and examine Mark and Anna's divorce, as well as the split within Germany, you can see possession is really tackling the ideas of division. Whether it be domestic or political, divisions such as divorce are often messy, painful, and bring out the worst in both parties. As Anna and Mark talk, they go around and around in circles, never reaching an agreement or a point of rest. They only escalate and find new ways to hurt each other. Difference leads to division, division leads to war, and war leads to absolutely nothing but death and destruction. The doppelgangers are super strange beings, and I've seen them as a point of argument between fans in regards to where they came from. Some believe that they are the creature itself, while others believe that the creature created them. When it comes to Mark 2.0, I believe we've witnessed the creature transform and take on this form throughout the film. It starts off super squiddy and slowly becomes more bipedal and human-like, even having a head of hair in that final sex scene. But if that's the case, does that mean that Helen is a different creature? And if so, where did she come from? One possible argument is that neither of them are the creature itself, but they are some kind of recreations made out of Anna's victims by the creature. This is partially supported when Zimmerman finds Emmanuel's body. We don't see the corpse, but Zimmerman seems really confused and Anna refers to it as incomplete. It's as though the body has undergone some kind of transformation. Another option is that both Helen and Mark 2.0 are totally separate creatures that happen to replicate a husband and wife. That ending with a bunch of explosions and gunfire seems out of place for just one or two aliens. It sounds like straight up Armageddon. It could be the case that a bunch of these creatures have infiltrated Germany and it's a full-on invasion outside. And the final option is that Helen isn't actually a real doppelganger, but Mark simply envisioned this woman as an idealized form of his wife. I don't personally need a really concrete answer as to which of those is the case or something totally different. I'm much more interested in how they play into the movie thematically. Both doppelgangers take the form of Mark and Anna's greatest desires. Helen is the absolute opposite of Anna. She's quiet, motherly, and loves housekeeping. Mark 2.0 has that intergalactic D and doesn't come along with all of the judgment and baggage that caused her to disgust him. Whether they're aliens or figments of their imaginations, while both partners are seemingly trying to fight for their relationship at certain points, they are also both seeking out a new idealized version of their partner to replace them. Religion also plays a big role in the film's themes, particularly through Anna. Most of the male characters in the film are pretty concrete and set in their beliefs, whereas Anna is more malleable and we are watching her really have a struggle of ideologies through the film. She constantly thrashes around and seems to lose control, visually representing that struggle happening within. During her badass monologue, she describes two sisters, Faith and Chance. Faith can't exclude Chance, but Chance can't explain Faith. Her faith didn't allow her to wait for Chance, and Chance didn't give her enough faith. These sisters represent two pillars of morality that Anna is trying to find her way through. Faith represents what she knows, its everyday life with a husband and child, and it is the hope that she will be able to resolve her marital problems. It's the hope that she can be happy again and that she will rediscover a purpose within that life. It is God, it is structure, it is the relatively safe confinement that we live in. Chance, on the other hand, represents everything we don't understand and are not prepared to face. It is chaos, it is the unknowable powers of the universe, it is everything that humans try to make sense of through tools like religion and politics. Chance is what led her to Heinrich, which led her to questioning the traditional values she knew. Anna tried to restore her faith by going to church and begging to God, but when he didn't answer, her body finally gave in to Chance in that very disturbing subway scene. She describes this event as the miscarriage of Sister Faith, leaving her with only Sister Chance on the inside. This miscarriage of faith is Anna's purging of her existing beliefs. She rejected God as a source of meaning and sought out a new purpose. But as chance would have it, her miscarriage gave birth to a new physical form that Anna could put her faith into. She gave birth to evil squid baby Jesus, providing a demented new god to worship. Now that I'm actually saying the script out loud, I'm not sure if it's making much of any sense, but I hope that it's helping some people parse through the chaos of this film. In short though, possession was Żuławski's way of dealing with his own divorce and the subsequent loss of faith and the fear of chaos that inundated his life. He lost his wife, was kicked out of his home country, and felt that governments were creating more division and building power than they were protecting their people. It's a bleak outlook on the crumbling values of family and country as he wonders what will be left of people when their humanity has been stripped from them. Possession definitely isn't a film for when you want a really cohesive story, likable characters, or a happy ending. It is depressing, confusing, disgusting, and will probably leave you thinking about it for hours after. If you're into psychological horror, body horror, horror with pervasive political and thematic messages, or otherwise fucked up shit, you should definitely give it a watch. Well, that's about it. Thank you again to my patron Liam for requesting Possession for me to review. But what do y'all think of Possession? Let me know down below. Did you think it was too gross, too scary, too boring? I'd love to have a conversation about it down in the comments. And be sure to join me on Halloween as we do a bonus review of a very fun, spooky film. Thank you all so much for joining me, and an extra thank you to my patrons: As always, I'm Noah Hook, and thanks for watching Hamburgers and Horror. Stay safe out there. Thanks for watching my review of Possession. If you enjoyed this video, be sure to like and subscribe so you can keep up with all my horror reviews. And if you want to help support the channel further, you should check out my Patreon account. You'll be able to vote for future movies and franchises I cover on the channel. Thanks, y'all.